Well, the question I have probably was written by Craig Boyd, but it's basically the question goes something like this: if open theism is correct, hypothetically, then why hasn't it been taught all along by the church? Isn't open theism some kind of heresy because it's so new and it's revisionist? It hasn't been taught by the church fathers. It's not part of any of the creeds. Well, I think that people that make this complaint don't understand the theological enterprise, and maybe they don't really understand what's important about classic Christianity and creedal, traditional Orthodox theology. And the reason for that is twofold. Theology is not a settled and fixed thing. As a systematic theologian, I'd be out of a job if my whole job was just to teach people to repeat the orthodoxies of the past. I mean, the whole idea is to see in experience, reason, and the different ways of reading scriptures, new ideas that respond to new problems and issues, so that the task of theology is an ongoing one. Now, if you went back and looked at the history of theology, you realize that people complain about Thomas Aquinas because he came up with new ideas. You know, people complain about Martin Luther because he came up with new ideas. People complain about John Wesley because he came up with new ideas. So the complaint that these are new is not new. It's as old as theology itself. And so I don't see that as necessarily a problem. Now, what about the thing that, well, it's heretical, it's contrary to the traditional Christianity, the classic Christianity? That's just not correct, because none of the creeds, in fact, define what omniscience is. So even those that think that, you know, God is like this, or even the great fathers and mothers of the church who agree that God is omniscient, I believe God is omniscient. What we're trying to do is discuss the domain of reality that God's omniscience covers, and that is open to new ideas from science, from philosophical understanding and critique. That's not fixed by the creeds. And so it's simply not possible to think of a new definition of omniscience as being a heresy or contrary to the creeds. And the last thing I would say is, as an evangelical theologian, is I'm committed to the authority of Scripture and the primacy of Scripture, even over classic Christian statements of doctrine, so that if some of my friends are like Karen, like Terry Fredheim that I teach with at Luther, that the Bible just has a different view of what God's knowledge of the future is like, then I'm going to be open to rethinking that, even if none of the fathers ever thought differently. So, thank you.